Hello, it's a duck. How are you? Yeah, only the two of us. I was today. I'm not always, but then I'm clicking like crazy. My computer isn't liking me right now because I've been looking up things that they don't like me to look up. And it makes my computer really slow when you go to some of these websites. And so I know I end up like, I got to read this and close it before it scans me too far. So I'm on Bufferville. But I have an interesting little 11-minute video. I want to appreciate this channel for allowing me to share with my friends. And I'll put the link to the channel in the chat. And this is a channel I subscribe to, and oftentimes he shares very interesting interviews and thought-provoking conversations to be had, whether you believe in them or not. So this was one I was just listening to, so it's brand new. This guy here, I can't think of his name at the moment. I'm sure it's in the comments, but he offers some of his psychology classes from Harvard or Yale or wherever he teaches live or free on YouTube. You can go listen to him. So I've taken his class. So whenever he shows up, I find him an interesting guy to think about and listen to. And he has a really great commentary here about morality and does it exist in a determined universe. They're duck. So I'm just going to play this and we can listen together and get our brain juices flowing, start squirting out some thoughts, if you will, massaging the portions of your brain for thinking outside of the box, kind of thing. Okay, so I'll shut up now. Here he is. Does morality exist in a determined universe?
What are the implications for morality of this view?
Well, this is where things get fairly contentious, because this is where I leave far behind what would be viewed as sort of a progressive, liberal, incremental sort of approach, which is one of edge cases. Yeah. In general, we believe there's free will, but keep in mind some people have less free will than other people, or keep in mind that in some circumstances we all have less free will than normal. And yeah, just keep in mind those when you're making. No, if there's no free will, blame and punishment make no sense whatsoever. Praise and reward make no sense whatsoever. Nobody has earned anything. Nobody is entitled to anything. Nobody's needs deserve more consideration than anyone else's. And just as minor side shows, the criminal justice system makes no sense intellectually or morally. And just as much so with a mirror, meritocracies make no sense intellectually or morally. And we currently run the world where we think it is okay to treat some people much better than average because of things they had nothing to do with, and other people much worse than average, likewise. And not only do we do that, but then we slather them with hypocrisy about how this is a just world and people get what they have earned. And you have to have an unrecognizably different world, and I recognize that, if one is going to accept none of us are entitled to better treatment than anybody else, and hating somebody makes as little sense as hating a virus that's good at getting into your lungs, because none of that makes sense within a standpoint of we are just biological machines that have arrived at this moment.
Why can't someone say that rather than precluding moral responsibility, that's actually the starting point? So namely, look, we have a variety of influences over our decisions and our life outcomes. But if someone, let's say Alice grew up in a neighborhood that's drug-ridden, all of her two parents did drugs, all of her siblings did drugs, and everyone she knows, and they sell it and so on. Yet she comes out of this not wanting to do so or escaping that. With all the factors against her, then I would say she deserves much more praise than the average person who doesn't do drugs. And conversely, if Bob grew up in a white-collar neighborhood with white-collar parents and he did something fairly benign, like steal a loaf of bread, the proverbial loaf of bread, the cliche, then that person deserves much more scorn than if Alice was to do so.
But there's no deserve. And this is back where it's so emotionally appealing to look at Alice and say, there's hope for the world. And that's so inspirational. And you so want to reward her for that. And to look at Bob, who's this self-indulgent creep. But once again, it is not by chance that they became who they are. Okay, here's a way of stating that. Like, you sit there and you're trying to make sense of some awful, appalling act that somebody carried out. And it happens that 6 months ago, they had a car accident that destroyed their frontal cortex and massive neurological damage there. And they've had no ability to regulate their emotions and impulses since then. And what most people are willing to say is, well, yeah, that's kind of, there's something involitional going on. There's some sort of organic problem. And that's relatively easy for us because what made him who he is, most importantly, one singular catastrophic event that wiped out his frontal cortex. But now you look at the average person who may have just done something appalling, and where'd that come from? And what becomes the challenge is it's 1,000, it's 100,000 nearly microscopic little silk threads of things that went on in the past that made this person who they are. And it is so much easier to see the attribution of a singular unsubtle event, because it's really hard to like identify all these subtle. What do you mean your mother's nutrient levels in her bloodstream back when you were a fetus is going to have something to do with how well you stick to a diet 50 years? That has something to do with it. Whether your ancestors were collectivist or individualist cultures has something to do with who you feel responsible for in society. Yeah, that's why it is so tough, because whatever went on with Alice and whatever went on with Bob, absent some really dramatic like car accidents, or it was a gazillion little threads of biology environment that went on before. And it's really hard to see them because it's complicated science. And a lot of them we haven't discovered yet, but we know the shape of them. And what it mostly is hard to believe is take a zillion of those little threads and combine them together. And you have as deterministic of a cable as is provided by like a singular like sledgehammer to somebody's forehead.
When would you say that someone is accountable for their actions?
Well, once again, showing I'm out in lunatic fringe here. Nobody is accountable for their actions. There is no earned, there is no deserve. And none of us are justified in having any sense of that when we judge somebody else or when we personally feel entitled to something. Okay, that's great. That's totally ridiculous and impossible to imagine a world running on that. And what I at least like say over and over on my soapbox is, yeah, this seems unimaginable, but we've managed to do bits and pieces of precisely this, subtracting responsibility out of a scenario. We've done it over and over and over again, historically, in our own lifetimes, all of that. And each time we've done that, not only hasn't the roof caved in on society, it's become a much more humane place. We figured out at some point that like destructive like lightning storms that like wipe out everybody's crops, they can't be caused by the old woman with no teeth living at the edge of the village who doesn't talk to anybody. People can't do witchcraft and control the weather, and it's not okay to burn them at the stake at that point. Oh, we subtracted responsibility for weather out of the realm of human volition, and it's like a good thing we don't burn people at the stake anymore. It's a good thing we think that mothers did not cause their child schizophrenia because the mothers had this psychodynamic Freudian toxic view of hating their child. It's a much better world that we figured out, no, it's actually a neurogenetic disorder. It's a much better world that some people can accept that like have crappy luck and you wind up with one variant of a gene that codes for a hormone receptor in your hypothalamus. And no matter what you're going to do, you are going to be morbidly obese because your brain cannot detect a satiation signal. And it is not because you are self-indulgent and have no self-discipline. It is not because unconsciously you hate yourself. There's something screwy with the satiation plumbing there. And once you were able to subtract that out, and when you do these studies, implicit biases and such, the only implicit bias that is increasing in intensity in society over the last 20 years is bias against obesity, weight biases. Like you get rid of that because like you figure out something about the nuts and bolts of metabolism and how the brain reward system works, and whoa, subtract that out, and that's going to be a much better world. It's a much better world that we figured out somewhere along the way that, oh, some kids have a screwy cortical layer thing going on in their cortex. And as a result, it's a very hard thing to tell the difference between a lowercase b and a lowercase p. And they have trouble learning to read. And they've got dyslexia. And not only is this a good thing to have figured out because now there's ways to better teach somebody when they're dealing with something like this, but you're not raising them to think that they're lazy and unmotivated, and you're not raising them in a society that thinks that they were lazy and unmotivated. Oh, it's screwed up plumbing, it's screwed up engineering. And every time we've done that for centuries and centuries, every time we realize, oh, that's not a realm of moral turpitude. That's a realm of screwy biology. Every time we have done that, the world becomes a more humane place. It becomes a better place. So, yeah, it's totally unimaginable that we could function day to day thinking nobody has earned anything, nobody has deserved anything. I am no more special than anybody else. Oh my God, I can manage that 1% of the time on a good day because it's really hard. And people do things and I feel pissed off, or somebody says, that's a lovely shirt you're wearing. And for a brief second, I feel like I'm a better human than average. And yeah, I can't do it all the time, but we have to recognize that nonetheless, we can change our mindsets in those ways because we've done so dramatically over and over again. And every time we do, the world becomes a better place.
To be clear to you and to people watching, I'm not a believer in free will, but I'm also not a believer in not free will. I think it's extremely complex, and the more I look into it, the less certain I am in any direction. So you're not irritating me at all when you say, like, I irritate people with these claims. I don't care. It's all fun, and I love contending with these thoughts.
Try saying that to a jury, though, which I have a bit of a hobby trying to do, and you see just how unconvincing that is. I sort of spend a lot of time with public defenders trying to teach juries about the brain, and yeah, how long somebody is going to spend in prison winds up revolving around this stuff, and people don't like this argument.
There are a litany of unconscious motivations that we have almost no access to, if any, that influence our decisions of what we think is a rational deliberation.
Okay, I'm here. Sorry, my computer was being naughty and it's working itself out. I have a tune to go along with that. That brainwashing. A tune. Yeah, I do like what he's saying there. Come on. No, you're not being nice. Stop it. Woo, it doesn't like me. I gotta go over and close. There is a Tupperware tab open over here that clearly is not liked. It is not liking it. I'm gonna close that. See if yeah, I was looking up Tupperware. And that's when my computer started getting very antsy this morning. It didn't like that. It said, why are you looking this up? Why do you want to know about Tupperware? And whether or not it was poisoning you for a lifetime. And exactly what that man is saying. There is an indefinite amount of circumstances that cause people to be the way they are. There's no way you could actually determine through any type of algorithm rather or not, someone's, do you know what I mean? Someone's life might turn out a certain way. There's an unbelievable amount of tiny little connections that get made when you're a child that equal huge outcomes later on down the line. It just expands and expands. One thing kicks you into another circumstance that in itself is full of all kinds of circumstances. And when I was looking at, like just Tupperware, and I was thinking about, so prior to 2010, Tupperware was containing, at least BPA. Who knows what chemicals are in it now? I haven't finished my dive yet. They're very picky about what they want to share. So they'll admit to the BPAs, but I don't doubt for a second there aren't and weren't many compounds and chemistries being done, that, we were living off of, how many of us were warming up TV dinners in those paper or even metal containers at one point, but in the microwave with those paper containers, and you'd peel back the lid and you'd mix up your pasta primavera and you'd throw it back in for it, or you'd pull that little plastic back and mix it up and then keep, peel back, but leave on that plastic, the whole fucking thing. And that's an entire generation that grew up, eating pizza from pizza boxes, hot pizza in your pizza box. Every time you fucking did that, you were poisoning yourself every time, minuscule amounts. And when you think about just Tupperware and how many things were warmed up in Tupperware pre-2010, what were we exposing ourselves to? And we were children then, which means that we were poisoning our future grandchildren there, for when we did have babies. Not the men so much, but it's still mutating your things that make the sperm in the first place. So, sperm are made every day as opposed to an egg that's already designed, right? But that doesn't mean that. What does that mean? Does that mean this sperm isn't even close to the same genetic sperm that it would have been when you were 16, say, now that you're 60? I don't know. These are the questions I ask myself. But anyway, I'll play this. So please share out the stream. So this is the new channel. So there's only 13 subscriber here, which I'm impressed. There's 4 people listening, even though one of them is me. 2 is Duck and 3 is Ulick. So whoever your 4th person is, hello. But you clearly had an invitation. So please share out the stream so we can get some more people in and get some conversations going. But yeah, so here's my song I'm gonna play.
Particle man, doing the things that a particle can. What's he like? It's not important. Particle man, is he a dot or is he a speck? When he's underwater, does he get wet? Or does the water get him instead? Nobody knows. Particle man. Triangle man, triangle man, triangle man hates particle man. They have a fight, triangle wins, triangle man. Universe man, size of the entire universe man. Usually kind to smaller man, universe man. He has a watch with a second hand, millennium hand, and a neon hand. And when they meet, it's a happy land. Powerful man, universe man. Person man, hit on the head with a frying pan. Lives his life in a garbage can. Person man, is he depressed or is he a mess? Does he feel totally worthless? Who came up with person man? Degraded man, person man. Triangle man, triangle man, triangle man hates person man. They have a fight, triangle wins, triangle man.
Triangle. I got to get over here before it goes on to. Okay, I muted it. Triangle Man. That's They Might Be Giants. I had that cassette too. That's an old band from back in the late 80s, early 90s, I suppose. Right in the flippy flip. Yeah. Triangle man hates particle man. They got in a fight and triangle won. I think that's like that tells you what's going on in the world. There's triangle man. He's a pyramid man. He's a pyramid schemer. He is a magician. He's a con man. And then there's me, particle man. And a triangle man hates particle man. I don't know why. It doesn't say particle man hates triangle man. It says that the triangle man hates the particle man. And they have a fight. Triangle wins. They won. Changed you. And there's universe man. Universe man. Anyway, I like the lyrics to that song a lot. I think they're really, because as we know, like throughout history, it seems to be the brothers Grimm, Cain and Abel. It's always, isn't it 3 cousins or something, that got in a fight? And what happened? You know what I mean? You see, oh, I do need to knight you. Oh my gosh. That was such a very true thing. Let me do that. Oh, we need a knighting ceremony. Do. Hang on. I've got to invite. Let me see. Let's have a knighting ceremony. No, oops. There we go. I got my crown on now. We'll knight everybody. Oh, hang on. Great. Here we go. There we go. Now I have my crown on. Proper. Okay, let's see who's going to be knighted first. I have to, of course. Oh my gosh, wait a minute. I am on my channel. Why am I not able? Oh my, hang on. Oh, I'm not. Hang on, I got to change my account. I got 14 subs now. I had 13 and now I have 14. We're getting there, guys. Oh, Paul C is live with some dance tunes. Okay, here we go. So Ulick, la la la, da 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 da. You, sir, have been knighted as a managing moderator, and a Scotsman, an Englishman, and an Irishman walk into America. Let's see. You, sir, have also become a moderator. And it's a duck. Oh, I'm sorry, not a moderator. A knight. You've been knighted. You've officially been knighted now. That was how we used to do it. It's a duck, because, we like to just take the piss out of shit. And then every time I'd lose a channel, we'd have to re-knight her. And I was like, this used to be fun. We'd have somebody new come in and they'd be around for a minute. And we all be like, give them a spanner so they could go and, harass all of our channels. That's the only reason we do it. And and then it was like it lost its funness once the channel disappeared. Then it was like, oh wait, oh you're back. I gotta re-knight you, So but what's hiding behind that beautiful face that you see before you? Ah! Fucked you up, didn't I? Ah! Yes. With great power comes great responsibility. This is very true. Take that sword of yours and use it. Wield it wisely. I'm not the queen. But I can channel her. So I think I'm the only channel on YouTube that actively channels the devil, politicians, queens. A lot of people channel aliens and ghosts, but how many do you know that can talk to Stalin? Like literally as if he's sitting right here, That was a good trick I did. I pulled that off. They were fools. How silly they were. So easy putting in my hands. Says the, Dracula. Anyway. Swish, swish. So, yeah, I just like the way my picture looks right here. It's like I'm wearing the crown. It just matches nice. It looks very, but we'll change it because we'll just call it the Rotten Show instead. That's more fun. The Rotten Show. Anyway, so yeah, so I've just been thinking about things, and that idea of the circumstances in your life equaling what you are. Reading a lot of stuff about PFAS, or I don't know if you want to swish or dots above your A, but either way, it's interesting the amount of poisons we've been exposed to for an eternity. That's got to be doing something. What could it be doing? What's happening to us? I don't know. So these are the thoughts that I've been having as of late. And I've been, sharing and reading my Rotten articles. And so I've got a few that are uploaded or made public, and a few that are still private that are not unlisted. I'll do those one at a time. It helps you know what forms you. Exactly. One of the articles, I haven't read it yet, but it's sitting there. It was talking about the cortisol levels of a mother when she was pregnant in response to poisons, PFAS or whatever. But I think about stuff like this, and my birth father died when my mother was pregnant with me. And I just imagine myself, as a little fetus going along, and all of a sudden this massive shift happens in my outside world even. I'm completely oblivious. But my mother isn't, and she's just pumping me with stuff. And then I think, is that part of the reason why I was a no person when I was born? Was I a no person because this happened to my mother and I got pumped with hormones or something at just the right time in my fetal development that made me pissed off at the world, made me go, no, I don't think so. Whatever you're saying sounds off. I can't just believe that. And then I think about the way we are with Santa Claus and the world at large. Much rather believe in Santa Claus. They don't, there's two types of kids. There's the type of kids that ask questions and the types of kids that believe anything. And I was an ask questioner. And the Bible says things like, you can't get into heaven if you don't have the mind of a child. And I think about what that means. And somebody could say, well, the mind of a child means that they'll believe anything. But then I also think, well, that's fair. But then also know something else about children is that at some point they don't believe anything before they believe again. Do you know what I mean? We all go through a stage where we find out something about the world. Let's just say it's the Santa stage. And then we question things. Well, then if that's not real, well, then was the tooth fairy real? Is the Easter bunny real? Are my parents really watching a show? Are my parents really giving a massage? Whatever kind of crazy things you've come up with to all the lies that our kids have heard. When they're spelling that word, what are they really spelling? COOKIE. I want to go look that up. It's cookie, damn it. I knew it. I knew they were spelling something important. A sympathetic resonance, maybe. Ooh, I like that. Attacking the empathetic nervous system, or the sympathetic nervous system, right? That's profound. It's interesting to think about, I think, anyway. What happens there? Then I was watching something about, the meaning of life theory. I never stopped seeing that anywhere. And I was watching Well, I've watched a couple things here recently that really explain my theory to me in ways that I find really magical, as if I almost feel characters I relate to, right? So why I like me, we'll just talk about me for a minute. Why I like certain movies or certain things or certain characters or certain quotes or books or whatever. Why I'm attracted to things, why I feel like I can relate. And there's certain characters in films or books that I felt like I could relate to their plight. And one of them is in Stargate with James Spader's character, right? Where it's as if he just could read something no one else could see. They'd stare at for 24 hours and just day after day for years and have no idea. And you just walk in and go, hey, wait, this here, and you just start slapping on the chalkboard the answer, and they look at you like you're an idiot, like, well, how did he do that? It's almost as if I can speak a language no one else can see yet, or no one else can read yet, or something. But I'm watching this Western film. I don't know, something Tombstone anyway. And I'd been to Tombstone. I grew up in Arizona, so the Wild West was always something that was very fun and appealing to me. Not to mention, we had lots of places we could go basically for free back in the 70s and 80s that would have, reenactments and things. If you live in New England, you might find them for, British wars or something. And then in the South, they have a lot of Confederate reenactments, Civil War. But in Arizona, out west, they do Western reenactments, and they would have native, things you could go to where they would dance, kind of like, I guess, going to Hawaii maybe and seeing a luau kind of experience. They had the same thing there. So these were things that were quite interesting to me. And as I'm watching this Wild West movie, I'm starting to notice something. I'm starting to think about the date, the years that we had the Wild West. And I know it's a movie, and I know that it's just, a story based off of maybe a behavior we had back then, So it's an extreme version of a much milder example, right? But nonetheless, we seem to, across the board, feel like a lawlessness. It was a time in our history where law and understanding was happening all over the world. But I'm just focusing here on the Wild West as an example. Oh, they're so much fun. They're so much fun, Dick. Yeah. They're a blast because you're like watching from the sidelines, like you've stepped outside the saloon or the barber shop, right? And here's this, hey, you, Sid, and you can watch them kind of do these battles, this OK Corral, which is Tombstone, which is, where we get some of these historical figures from in America. And I'm thinking about that, and suddenly I'm not watching adults in these reenactments or this film. I'm not watching, two adult men, get in a fight at the bar because one of them talked, said something offensive, right? I'm seeing children. One of the unique things about me, if you want to know where some of my professional experience comes from, is that my entire life I have liked children. I babysat and began to babysit by myself at 11 years old. I was that responsible and got paid by neighbors to do so. Double digits was a very common age for us girls at that time to get paid to babysit. And I continued to do that all the way through high school. I loved babysitting. I went off to college and again, babysitting as well as teaching preschool and getting tons of accreditation, because at the time period, it put me in a place where accreditation was new. And my center was trying to be the first center in the state, or one of them, to be accredited. That wasn't, today every center is, but back then in the early 90s, that wasn't a thing yet. And so I was very lucky. And then of course I did go to college, and I do have some human behavior psychology type backgrounds. And so I've observed children forever, and I'm telling you that they act like this. So I started to have thoughts then. We think that our children acting out cowboys and Indians is them acting out films. And in reality, I think we were all, that's that macro cosmic scale there. I think they were actually acting out at that time the very behavior they would normally have when they were 5 and 6 years old. Concept of what's right and what's wrong. Women having cooties and yet around, these kind of, all of a sudden, women are an enemy in a new way they weren't before. Just think about the behaviors that go along through history of how we've viewed women as objects and then as something we hate. And think about how we view them now and how we viewed them at different stages in history. And then think about how you in those same ages would have thought of it. It becomes really an interesting pattern. You really start to see these unique alignments, almost like you can see that, and like I can stop for a second and look right at this onion. That layer stops spinning, and you can look at it straight away. And I was thinking that maybe it's not the kids acting out the past, but the past that was acting out the kids. Exactly as, space-time continuum is described, only from a biological perspective, where the micro and the macro, these two separate things that are going on, that when they intermix, these things mimic each other. The math is there. The math creates a childhood. It creates an adolescence. It creates a middle age. It has to. That's a fact. Developmental stages are. That is the one thing that we can't change. Like, that's a definitive mathematical equation. Why wouldn't I assume that the ether wouldn't have the same pattern? Why wouldn't I assume that? Of course it would. And this is how it expresses itself, I'm woke. I finished Red Dead Redemption 2. I've heard that. I've heard those things, people saying that kind of stuff. Everything in their life is about a plant, or everything in their life is about a mushroom. I'm the same. Everything in my life is about a normal human behavior. What's normal and what's not normal? Well, honestly, everything's normal. There isn't anything that you could do that isn't normal, right? Now, how often we do it, that could be different. Maybe you don't have too many people that want to go and, bomb things, but that's still normal what they're doing. It's still normal. Everything is normal from a developmental perspective. How could you say it's not? How can, like that guy in that video, how can we actually determine what's, if you do it and you're a human being, guess what? It's normal, or you wouldn't do it. Now I wonder about outside influences, kind of like that toxoplasmosis. Is there something kind of that makes toxoplasmosis makes me think about Men in Black, where it had that little alien inside the guy's head, and that alien being a representative of some kind of virus, bacteria, whatever you like, whatever flavor Kool-Aid is your favorite. That kind of just controls things and gives you the illusion of free will. Makes you think you want a cat. Makes you think it's your idea. kind of like WikiHow, how to control people, make them think it's their idea. You could learn a lot from a virus or whatever, you know, a plaxmosis. The nature of things, what a character type tends to be. So if we were only in that age, now I can pinpoint the Wild West because it is in fact an age I go through. It's also a stage in our lives that we're starting to recognize what do unto others means. And to have a time period, and just using this one as a snapshot image to make a point, have a time period where, you know, you're walking around with guns, everybody's walking around, everybody's quick-tempered, they're shooting their mouths off or shooting their guns off, and the amount of restraint that was also being used. Now, I can walk into a third grade classroom and see that same thing. A first grade, a second grade, probably more like it. I think it's more of a second grade type, a 6-year-old, a 7-year-old activity where you start to think about how your actions work on others, how you see that string of events happen. You pissed off, you know, like gangs. And then I think, did they not grow up? What happened in their environment that kept them not understanding tit for tat, you know? And so the cycle keeps going over and over again. Now the Bloods and the Crips don't want to talk. It's a stage that you get stuck in. It's just the biblical virus, Ulix says. PRS, hand people a way to think and have them believe that it's their own. That's a magic trick of hypnosis. There's a film, Now You See Me, and in it they got some guy that's supposed to pick a specific bank. They're going to rob it. I don't know. But anyway, in the scene, they had been for 2 weeks programming this man through small, subtle things. Of course, this is a movie, but it's how it works. So that when the time came and he was in fact asked the question, he would give the answer that they wanted. And that's hypnosis. They hypnotized him. They put him in a lucid state, an in-between zone. And while there, that allowed his unconscious, through maybe a trigger word said during the process of calling them up on stage, that brought back all of those images. And they say the Anarchy Bank, right? With Morgan Freeman, let me think. Yes, it was with Morgan Freeman. Yes. And that brings me to another interesting thing about Morgan Freeman. He often plays a godlike or wise role. And if you remember, even in his documentaries, you know, he's in that Lucy movie, which I think is kind of interesting. If I was to think about that one packet of drugs in her stomach, that's happening all at once. Remember, television is an expedited version of what really happened. It's an extreme version. It's as if we've compressed thousands of years into an hour and a half, 90 minutes. Remember, what happens in your business today doesn't have an effect for 90 days. The law of three. Why is the movie 90 minutes? I don't know. Just asking, just thinking about things. Yeah, he did. So if I think about that my Tupperware, my TV dinners, and my pizza delivery boxes over the years, my makeup, my body wash from Bath and Body Works, which is also on my hit list. I want to see if what's in their things, right? All of these women back in the 2000s, the first decade of the 2000s, who had a mass obsession with Bath and Body Works and smelly lotions and this, that, and the other, and creams. I just watched some video. Somebody had shared it with me, I believe. Yeah, it was. Buffa did. So thanks, Buffa. But it was these two ladies. So she was sharing the channel, but what she gave me a link to was these two ladies talking about the mites on her eyelashes, and they're learning about them for the first time. And they're about my age, so I was a little surprised by this. But then I reminded myself that not everyone asks questions. And as a child, I was someone who asked questions. So when it was brought to my attention, probably in a science class, I was paying attention, and I go, I want to know about these mites on my eyes. See, I've known about my eyelash mites for a very long time, since I was a little girl. It's why I didn't, mascara, as wonderful as it is, I learned in the 80s that mascara kills your mites on your eyes and can lead to infections. Now, whether that's true or not, I don't know, but I fell for it. And I always thought about, I don't want to give too much mascara on my eyes, as I don't want to kill my mites. Suddenly there's something happening with all of these people in the new cosmetics, and the mites themselves are mutating, and all of these fake eyelashes are causing mites. It's as if the mites have gotten a taste for these pharmaceuticals and are blooming, Hey, patient unknown. I only drink from waterfalls deep in the Scottish mountains. Hunt haggis barefoot. I'll live forever. Excellent. Don't hold the phone too close to your head, and don't eat out of plastic containers. Unknown. Welcome. Yeah. These are the things that I think of. What is going on, really? If we have a poisoning, it's as if they have Munchausen by proxies, if they want to make us sick to make us better. They certainly do work very hard to make us sick, don't they? Don't you think? I mean, how hard are they working at making us sick? It's everywhere. You can't get away from it. Even drinking from your waterfalls deep in the Scottish mountains. Hunting for that sounds really fun. I'm going hunting for haggis. Are you now? Yes, and I'm doing it barefoot. So there you go. My dad, when I was a kid, I used to have to walk 10 feet, 10 miles to school barefoot in the snow. You remember that? And that's a beautiful thing you're bringing up. Of course, all of those cups that when you'd pour your hot coffee in them, they'd melt, patient unknown. Do you remember that? The inside of your little poly cup would melt from the hot coffee. Yes. Monty Python. I would have to know what you're talking about there. It's a duck. I love Monty Python, but I'm not sure I know what you're talking about. Takeaways. The heat gives off the toxins. Isn't that crazy? I was learning that about the Tupperware. It actually says anything that says can be used in the microwave, if that's printed on your Tupperware, you should throw it out. It can't be used in the microwave, and it's poisoning you. Crazy things. And how much of that now, you know what? Again, our grandmothers, because think about that. My grandchildren are a product of my environment, not my booze. They're partially. That's being added, but those eggs were created when she was inside me. And then the changes within her. And now you think about that, and you think about how much, the saran wrap, when we were wrapping everything, when we switched wrapping it in paper or waxed paper even, we ended, natural paper, and we started bleaching the paper, and we started coating the paper, and then we started using plastic bags and Ziplocs and baggies and cellophane, and our sandwiches to school were, you know what I mean? All of these things. The plastic thing is not by accident. No way. It's insane what all has plastic in it. From birth, we are given plastic chew toys, dummies, and milk bottles. You made me think of something, William. I do believe in the meaning of life theory. And when we are babies, in other words, when we had the Bronze Age, our baby stage, we bronze our baby shoes, the things we learned to walk in, our first pair of shoes, your Buster Browns when I was a kid. The Silver Age, these were ages that gave way to these, remember the silver rattles that were given to babies? I think of these things, and what does that do when a baby's just the silver rattle? Now we're giving them plastic rattles, but we're not in the Silver Age. First, we had the Golden Age, and then we had the ages of man, the 5 ages of man, putting us at stage 6, or adolescence, of course. The bottles, most definitely, William, too, because how many of those bottles were put in the microwave to warm with the tap water that was taken from the sink and then warmed in the microwave with a synthetic milk powder, shaken up and given to the baby with a rubber nipple also made, and also now getting the rubbing from the gums, the sucking. Obviously, this is tearing down. We already know that nipples disintegrate after a while. How many kids or babies are poisoned and wouldn't have been as much, The taste of plastic was stronger than the tea. We used to walk miles barefoot. Oh, I gotcha. Yes, I see the reference now. Those two things were too far apart, Duck, and so I failed to see the connection. Now I getcha. We're also shown a globe at a young age. Oh, we have a flat earther amongst us. Welcome home, patient. Almost certain that they, how the flat earth started their logical thinking. So our air fryer is dangerous. Yes, we've only just been realizing these things and sharing the good news. And, being more aware of what comes into our houses. Just had a banging bacon roll from it. Yummy. Okay. I just switched to an air fryer, never looked back. That's the problem. I was reading that about the PFAS. One of the things I kept coming across when you're looking at true environmental people that are openly sharing these dangers, one of the things, Bloomberg, actually, as in Bloomberg Business, you can go on their YouTube channel and type in search forever chemicals. They have quite a documentary. And, they say in there as well that they just change the chemical compound. So even if they say, okay, we're getting rid of the BPAs, they found another one that isn't dangerous. That's only because it's not been found dangerous yet. They haven't been using it. So they, originally they thought those were safe too. So the compounds are going to be pretty much the same thing, only they're going to have a different name, maybe one little tiny thing. The same thing happens with medications. So one medication, gets repackaged in another name. Maybe they alter one tiny thing about it. still the same thing. It's not, its basic compound structure hasn't changed that much. I'm with you. I'm with you. I mean, we are here now, right? You know, it's too late for us. Anyway, I always think it's too late for us anyway. So where was that one? I'll share this one thing that I found. About our, I want to see if I can find it real quick. How is everybody doing? I'm hoping fine. Oh yeah, here it is. This one here, I found this little thing very telling and interesting. So I'm gonna, this one here. Okay, let's see here. Yeah. You would be hard pushed to find anything that's got some form of hidden danger. Exactly, the beast system. I talked to, yes, and I thought she was being a scaremonger, but hey, I've been taking it out today. It's for the dump, not to pass off some else, but play Russian roulette. Well, the truth is we don't use it that much because I really just prefer cooking in the oven. I don't even use the microwave that much. So, you know, I get it. If it was something that we were using, I might have different feelings on it and think, well, it's worth the risks. It saves me so much trouble. But something that I'm really rarely even using, in all honesty, I would be getting rid of it anyway, because it's been a gadget that was purchased and then you go, you know, I hadn't really used it that much. So to be sitting out taking up space seems silly. And all the British Army to fentanyl injections. It's terrifying. Morphine has been replaced. That's what they do, really. They just change it with something else. This little video here is real interesting because I didn't know this. I'm learning these things myself. What makes PFAS so dangerous? And actually what's interesting is the title of this says, this chemical does nothing, but it's still bad for you. So how do PFAS work on our system? I don't know if they'll hit me for this, but let me just show you here where it's important. So it's going to talk about our Teflon, what it's in. It keeps things from sticking to it. I might just play. It's only 3 minutes long. And I don't think this is a robot channel. So but you know, typically they are. I guess we'll find out. Here, let me know. Make sure we have sound. So if you don't hear it, let me know.
This molecule makes no sense. Hi, I'm David, and this is Minute Earth. And I recently got obsessed with the forever chemicals known as PFAS, or in slightly more nerdy scientific parlance, per and polyfluoroalkyl substances. Their long bodies are packed with carbon-fluorine bonds, one of the strongest chemical bonds out there. These bonds act like a straitjacket, binding the molecule so tightly together that its atoms basically can't react with anything else. Not food, not dirt, not water. Over the last 70 years or so, we humans have put PFAS coatings on all sorts of products that we don't want to interact with other stuff. The most famous PFAS out there is the Teflon you can find in your nonstick pans, which our sister channel Minute Food, by the way, just released a whole video about here. But you can also find a variety of different PFAS molecules in stain-resistant carpets, floss, raincoats, firefighting foam, and more. But in recent years, researchers have found that these supposed miracle molecules can cause health problems like diabetes and cancer, which at first didn't make any sense to me. I mean, the problem with most harmful compounds is that they do want to react with other molecules, and those interactions cause problems. Lead, for instance, binds to enzymes, blocking their ability to bind to the stuff that they're supposed to. PFAS molecules, though, don't seem to want to interact with anything at all. So how could they be dangerous? Okay, so then I thought maybe they're more like CFCs, another problematic man-made molecule. CFC molecules are also generally unreactive, but under certain circumstances, like if they rise into the atmosphere and get hit by UV radiation, their chlorine atoms can break off and go on a rampage, breaking apart ozone molecules and causing holes in the ozone layer. But that isn't what's going on with PFAS molecules either. Basically, nothing in our everyday environment, including UV rays, can break their super strong bonds. That's why you might hear PFAS molecules called forever chemicals. Under most conditions, they simply won't break down. Instead, one big problem with PFAS seems to be how similar they are to fatty acids, which are the molecules our bodies rely on to store energy and protect our organs. Certain types of PFAS and fatty acids are basically identical. It's just that instead of fluorines bound to their carbons, fatty acids have hydrogens. We don't totally understand how it all works, but when PFAS molecules are around, like in the food we eat or the water we drink, the carrier proteins in our blood that normally grab onto and distribute fatty acids often grab onto and distribute their PFAS doppelgangers instead. And those doppelgangers don't do the critical jobs that fatty acids do. In people that are around PFAS molecules a lot, like firefighters and people who manufacture PFAS products for a living or live near the factories, these doppelgangers can build up. And one theory is that if they take the place of too many fatty acids, the body can't properly store energy or protect its organs, which can lead to a host of health issues. There's some other stuff too. For example, there's evidence that just by being around in the body, PFAS molecules can confuse certain genetically controlled receptors, throwing off their ability to do things like regulate insulin production. I was super confused about how a molecule that doesn't react could actually be bad for us. But it turns out that if it's taking the place of a molecule that is supposed to do something, or even just hanging around in places that it shouldn't be, even a basically do-nothing molecule can cause harm.
I found that interesting. And I liked the way he used terms like doppelganger and like it's a mimicking. It's not doing it with intent. The alchemy is this, and the body goes along sweeping it up, and it's sweeping up shit. It's clogging up the vacuum. I don't know. Lots of ways you could look at that. No more wrestler burgers in your gaff. That's right. Yes, they get done in the toaster. Where there's a will, brother. Where there's a will. I like the king rib ones. These must be a Scottish thing, huh? They are the best, to be honest. It is crazy. Yeah, that is a weird, I liked that because that kind of explains some of why we're having these. And when you start looking at it and you start seeing the accumulation and then the environment that is exposed to these things. And what else is really interesting here is if we do pull out some Bible, and let me get down my King James. And it says that there are no rich nor poor, no one's left behind, right? The rich get it too. The rich are always trying to extend their lives and look better and these kinds of things. Now, eventually they'll get the science right, but they're searching for a fountain of youth, and they'll take whatever tincture salesman comes into town. And that's why you have celebrities that are putting fetal, circumcision cells on their face, Sandra Bullock, or period blood on their faces. I don't know who that was doing that. I can't even remember what celebrity. Putting fillers, trying these creams to get rid of wrinkles, injecting Botox in their face. And all of these things they keep putting on their bodies, in their bodies, the makeup, the fake eyelashes. These things are mutating. You're not getting, the problem isn't going away. And so what are we doing? We're changing things. Trans fats, or are they very, that is it. Now, what damage is being done when the natural body, is suddenly feeding off of something that's not natural to it? Not only not natural, we've always been putting crap on our faces, but it used to be ashes or blood or something, or clay, some type of fruit pigment or plant pigment. Now everything's fake. Now everything's a chemical. Everything's alchemy. The world is an alchemist's play yard. I will send you. Okay, yes. It's going to cost you $60, but I'll wait patiently. Send me something in the mail. Everyone used to ride horses, and only the rich had cars. See, the rich get poisoned first. They're the first idiots to believe something. Then after it's polluted their minds and their retards, they come out and want us to buy it. Look what I've been using all these years. How did I lose this weight? It's a secret, Jenny Craig. Right? And the rich have the horses. I believe that's called a walkthrough or a flip, a reversal. On the surface, it's harmless, so they can weasel it past us. Yeah, don't they look good? But it's like death becomes us. Death becomes them. If we wait long enough, if you just wait long enough, they're going to crack. They're going to fall apart. They're going to age very rapidly. And in fact, in longevity, that is one of the problems that happens. You can delay it, but eventually it happens very rapidly. And so you have a rapid decline, a complete breakdown. And I think that's what we see in the horror and stuff. We're being mugged off big time. Women have been tricked with makeup, and some women wear so much these days. It's monkey poop on their face. Yes, that comment, Duck. We need to, but we're being tricked because I'm told that I'm getting old and I'm unattractive now. So how I need to fight my wrinkles, my crepey skin, my, don't squint, don't go out in the sun, put this lotion on, put that lotion on, put makeup on, put this kind of makeup on. It's airbrushed. You look like a filter all day long. And then you see yourself and you really look like a creepy old hag because that's all caked into your wrinkles. And you wonder why people look at you funny. They think, what a weirdo. But then they're going to do it. They're going to do it eventually too, Who's dropping emails? Who's dropping emails? Okay, you can't be over 20. No, I'm not allowed to be. That's very true. I can't copy that comment. That bugs me. What is this? I'm going to write your email down anyway. I'm writing it down. So you made it out there. I probably could go to your website and get it. That's live, but not as we know it. Live at the Gmail. Okay. And that's all lowercase letters there, buddy. Okay. Been watching too many. I've been doing too much Canadian. I'm watching Fargo and getting accents. Yeah, they try to convince me I can't go over 21, I thought these forever chess were coming from the coatings of these machines rather than the poison of being cooked. That they're in the lubricants. Okay, I will. Okay, I will. I'll do that. Okay. Bye, patient unknown. Thanks for coming in and sharing, rotten channels with your friends and subscribing and all of the things that I know you've done. I've got some soda. Ooh! Did you hear about our Scottish cookie fiasco? Did you hear the box said it's baked in Scotland? But if you're unhappy with your purchase, you may return it to Ireland, Dublin. And then in the store, there was I got that particular box. They were terrible, by the way. Ugh. I had way better shortbread cookies from Scotland at this brand. Gross. Anyway, not a fan. But the other in the store, they had some other cookies that they're saying, Danish butter cookies or Scottish butter cookies, right? And you flip them over and they are made in India. And I was thinking, no, That's not right. I did put up a quick live. I don't have any videos. I can't upload. I live out in the sticks, and trying to upload something pisses everyone else off in the house. So I don't upload. I can do lives though. And that's why I don't like to use my camera anyway. I'm just going to sit there and be frozen every 5 seconds and stupid faces. And so that's frustrating too. I can't, not a camera person, just not one of those people. But I did do a live. I think it's public. That's talking about that very thing there. What was it? Oh, I'd have to go look. Let me see. Anyone's welcome to jump up with me. If you go over to the lives there, let me find it. Yeah, the Rotten Truths. It's what's your butter wrapper? And it's talking about the curry. You know, it was a news segment from the American News, and it was talking about the Kerry Farms butter, Kerrygold butter, and the wrappers. They had to recall them because, well, they've already been there for a while before we learned, but the wrappers contained, and it was leaching into the butter. And this was really interesting to me because several years ago, there was a campaign here in America for yogurt, because, the lady from Scream, what is her name? What's her face? She's in True Lies too. I can't think of her. Not Scream. Friday the 13th, famous actress. I can't think of her name, but anyway, she was doing these Activia yogurt commercials, and yogurt was the big thing. I think Rosie O'Donnell even got on board on the yogurt wagon train, and they were selling us yogurt in the little containers, and you scrape the bottom and you stir the stuff. And anyway, this really interesting advertising campaign came through where they encouraged you to lick the lid. And so you would peel back this foil safety flap, and in the commercial, they'd show them licking the lid, and there'd be some cute little, saying in there, like, confused, like your tea tags would say, some Confucius, like a fortune cookie, let the sun shine on you today, or something positive. It was during the positivity movements. And so you would peel open your yogurt, and then you would lick the lid. And I was doing that. We were all doing it. It was probably 10 years ago, maybe. It would be longer than that, actually, because I've been divorced longer than that. It was pre-divorce. So 20 years ago, maybe, somewhere around there, 10 to 20. And we were all licking the lids of our yogurts. And the top would have this kind of, it would have this transition that would happen to the yogurt at the top, and you'd get kind of a real thick, creamy yogurt rather than the watery yogurt, whereas the water settles, how it would separate like that. And so that lick was really delicious. And one day I was licking it, and I had a thought in my head. So you know what I'm talking about. Excellent. And probably by Indians. And I was licking it, and as I was licking it, I had, the thing is in my face. And I have a thought. I thought, what if the ink, what if something on this top of this lid that I am licking, and you'd lick, because it was so good, that lick. What if that has some kind of toxic poison on it that we're unaware of? The ink, that's where my mind was at the time. Of course, since then I've come to learn. And so now I ask myself, is that an innocent campaign where somebody just wasn't thinking, and they were like, hey, let's have them lick the lid and put cute little sayings, and it'll make people like our product? Or was that an intentional move to get us to all lick the lid? The lid. You know what I'm saying? Will's a butt. We're all, look at us, the three of us. Oh my God. We're licking lids. Who's licked the paper inside the chocolate if the candy bar melts? Come on. Who's opening up the bag of chips and licking all the salt out of the inside of your crisp bag, right? I've done that. I do that. Who was opening their Pop Rocks and licking the inside of the Pop Rock package? Or maybe your Fun Dip or whatever kind of candy you had that had like a foil pouch you'd open up and lick inside. How many of us were licking the candy packages? All these kinds of things are going through my mind. Are they intentionally telling me to lick lids? Am I licking lids? I don't know. And then my body can't tell the difference. Here comes my little blue man, and he's like picking up some fatty acids, and along the way he comes across the sleeping PFAS, who happens to kind of just look like a fatty acid. And now it swallows the fatty acid, and now the fatty acid is like, what the fuck? What's going on? You know? And now fatty acids, they're like, well, what the hell? I can't do my job. And because they die off and the PFAS are forever and they don't, eventually the body's just going around picking up more PFAS, which means it can't function properly, which means it's going to start malfunctioning. It's like putting sugar in a gas tank. It'll run for a minute, but eventually this is going to cause some major problems. I'm a chocolate lover. Never been big on the crisps or savory. So you're a sweet. That's really interesting, William, because personally, I'm a savory person. That is my color. I like savory. So of the feet of the tongue, mine, I like savory things. I would prefer nuts and seeds and seasoning type crackers or these kinds of things to a candy bar any day. Although I like candy, I would prefer, nuts and things, savory things. I like seasony things, So that's a way. So I ask, what about the rest of you guys? What about the rest of you guys? What is do you like savory? Do you like sweet? Are you a sour fan? Do you like bitter? I think aren't those the 4 taste buds that we have? And that's the same with my wife. What about this great new find, Mr. Lickass the Greek? Oh, yes! Let me go find that. Oh, I'm a total cheese and cracker. Duck says he's a sweet. Oh, yeah, let me go find this. Oh, is that still here in my... I think it is. It's a 10-hour. Where is that? It might be in a different playlist, but I'll go find it. My history. Well, it's going to be in one of these. Let me go over here. It might be in this one. 10. There it is. Is that it? No, it's 3 hours. Here it is. No, it was 10 hours. Okay, I'm going to put the link in here too for you guys, because this is so interesting. If you're like me and you're a bit of a nerd, I just sat down and put this on while I was crocheting and have been listening to it. And man, it's got some interesting. So this was just one little segment, and I time-stamped it because I thought it was a little funny to me, a little silly, but interesting to have the way these are LibriVox recordings. So this was a person recording this. They give their name, the date, and everything, as opposed to an AI reading it. And so this is the way he was pronouncing it. And I just thought the definition and everything was just so interesting. So I shared it with you, and now I'll share it with you, Mr. Lickass. Okay. Unami or something is supposedly a 5th type. spelling on that is probably wrong. I've heard it pronounced. I've only heard it pronounced. Oh, interesting. Now I'm gonna have to go check that out. Like a fifth taste bud. A fifth identifying, right? Umami. I just meant some savory crackers and mayo now for a bit of beetroot and sour cream. Okay, let me play this on mute.
To ask where he was buried. The Pythia responded in hexameter to the messengers, "There is a place, Tegea, in the smooth plain of Arcadia, where two winds blow under strong compulsion. Blow lies upon blow, woe upon woe. There the life-giving earth covers the son of Agamemnon. Bring him back, and you shall be lord of Tegea." When the Lacedaemonians heard this, they were no closer to discovery, though they looked everywhere. Finally, it was found by Lycas, who was one of the Spartans who are called doers of good deeds. These men are those citizens who retire from the knights, the 5 oldest each year. They have to spend the year in which they retire from the knights being sent here and there by the Spartan state, never resting in their efforts. It was Lycas, one of these men, who found the tomb in Tegea by a combination of luck and skill. At that time there was free access to Tegea, so he went into a blacksmith's shop and watched iron being forged, standing there in amazement at what he saw done. The smith perceived that he was amazed, so he stopped what he was doing and said, "My Laconian guest, if you had seen what I saw, then you would really be amazed, since you marvel so at ironworking. I wanted to dig a well in the courtyard here, and in my digging I hit upon a coffin 12 feet long. I could not believe that there had ever..."
We hardly knew ya. Lycas, a Spartan. What did it mean? A good person? Like, what is it? What did it mean? I can't remember. I had to run to the ladies. I had to haul ass to the ladies. Anyway, I thought that was kind of funny there in that. But here I'll share the link to it if you're, nerdy like me. So interesting about this book though. Okay, so why am I even listening to it? Well, because this guy, Herodotus, I mean, look at the names even. Herodotus. So Herodotus is accepted as the earliest, or he is given the title of the godfather of history, or the first person to start writing down history. And so his writings, and he comes from, let me show you here. I think it says, yeah, so Herodotus Histories, Volume 1, Herodotus, circa 484 BC to 425 BC. And then it was translated by A.D. Godley in 1856 through 1925. He spent translating it. And it says the histories of Herodotus, of Halicarnassus, is considered the first work of history in Western literature, written about 440 BC. The histories tell the story of the war between the Persian Empire and the Greek city-states in the 5th century BC. Herodotus traveled extensively around the ancient world, conducting interviews and collecting stories for his book. And the rise of the Persian Empire is chronicled, and the causes for the conflict with Greece. Herodotus treats the conflict as an ideological one, frequently contrasting the absolute power of the Persian king with the the democratic government of the Greeks. And that was adapted from Wikipedia. Well, when I started looking into this book, though, and then I started listening to it, is that he goes around, as they say, or this is what they want me to believe, and he starts interviewing people during that time to tell them about their history. And so what this gives you is two accounts. In some cases, you're getting the Greek accounts and you're also getting the Persian accounts. So he goes and asks both sides, and you start to see differences. You start to see one side story of Helena Troy and another side story of Helena Troy. And that is what is interesting, because the truth is going to lie somewhere in between. Whenever I'm looking at history, one thing that frustrates me is that historians fail, and I mean fail dramatically, in looking at normal human behavior and applying it to the time period and saying, what would humans do? What would be a normal human thing to do here? And then that will give you a lot more. So instead, they want to believe in Zeus and these types of things, and they just want to remove any type of normal human developmental type thinking. You know, what is a normal thing humans do? They do these things. God doesn't make, you know, the coat of many colors. This is a normal thing that people do. You know what I mean? And, oh, beetroot. Very good. That's a crop I'm working for my college product. So it's an interesting book if you want to hear, a story that you were told in school about these wars, or maybe you saw it in a movie called 300, and then you want to hear a different side to that story. I'm much further in the book than an hour and 18 minutes. I think I've got another hour in it, as I've just been listening to it. So almost 3 hours I've got in there, and it's worth listening to. It's kept me interested anyway. I find it, as long as you're taking it from a human perspective, and I think that's what his writing was interesting. So, it's another fable. It's a way of telling the stories of, Robin Hood, or Johnny Appleseed, if you will. So, it's like that. I don't know. Does anybody want to hop up with me? I'm gonna do a few of these. I know we won't have a whole lot of people coming in when I do these, but I would like to build up the channel a little bit more, so we can have some backups to our backups for when things like this are happening. And so doing one and asking, pathetically saying, share me out with your peeps if you think the things I say are interesting. For those who are interested, interesting things for interesting people sold here, so that's rad, and maybe we can keep going forward. I do want to keep recording things too. So another thing, and I will put my email out just for those few of us that are in here. It's lowercase letters. I'm the Dharma. I'm the Dharma at Yahoo is my email. So if you have any interesting articles that either you don't want to read on your channel, or you can't read, because you don't have a chat, whatever, and you want me to read it, you can email me them and I will read them. I will share them. So I'm always looking for interesting articles. And so, there's that going on. And I guess that's really it for me. We're just kind of all bouncing off each other. I'm sure there's other things that we can, inspire conversations, but you're welcome to join me if you want. Otherwise, I'll go back to my audiobook and my crocheting and recording things, learning about things. I'd love to be on other people's chats. I don't mind joining panels. If you're going to find what I have to share interesting, otherwise, you know, a struggle because most people don't want to talk about their human behaviors and they meanly, I think, dismiss me. And you know, no, that's ridiculous. It's definitely the Illuminati, or it's definitely an alien, or it's definitely God, or it's definitely this, or it's definitely that. I don't know. They don't want to think of it like that. Seems weird, you know. And the only way I can think about it is through these, you know, stages. But anywho, Boodles, yeah. No? Okay. Well, I appreciate everybody hanging out with me then. We'll go find something else to do. Does anybody know anyone else who's live? We can check our lives and share links. Who's live? No one on that one, but I'm on the wrong account. Let me switch. There's lots of interesting people. We Are Awake TV is live. Sci-Fi is a live. Oh, I like AV Geeks. That is a really good channel. Hang on. This always gets me thinking of things. If you're not, if you don't know this channel, it might be worth it for you to go check them out. I do think that he's interesting and I do like supporting him. He would be somebody, if I thought it made a difference in him streaming, I would probably, you know, spend some money on, just because I find this stuff interesting. And so he's just gone, or he's at live 57 minutes ago. You can rewind. He plays old film strips and things and saves them and preserves them. He's an archivist. And so you get these old film strips that are super fun to watch. And he does a live. I mean, look at this, you know, a lot of these things. A fun channel. Maybe I'll do a stream on that one day where I'll just stream my favorite channels, Joanie's favorite channels. That's a good idea. If you want to know what I watch for fun. Do you know who that is? It's Joanie. Anyway, okay. We'll bounce out. I'll bounce out for the couple of us. You're going to watch that? Okay, excellent. So we have, I'm going to go find that link and we can head that direction. So we have a couple choices. I better be, of course you are, William. Of course you are. Yes, Knowledge is live too. Excellent share. I don't know why that one wasn't showing up for me. Gee, I wonder why. I'll have to. Yeah, Knowledge. Yeah, he's got some great stuff as well. So if you're just doing something else and you want to have something in the background, and so not a lot of people hang out in there, but definitely some interesting stuff being shared. So totally worth it. Oh, yes. Okay. So everybody, if you're not subscribed to William, you got a spanner. Throw your link in. I think everyone here is you're like our William, you're like our connecting dot. You're the thing that connects us all, right? Will, I'll see you in your chat later. That would be rad. Not Jimmy from Philly. No. You'd like him. He'd have you on no problem. He talks about, oh, well, that's interesting. Let me go see. I'm going to go look him up while we're here before I forget. Not Jimmy from Philly. I always love people that make me. Oh, looky there. Oh, okay. Is this a channel then? It's a small channel. Can you see this? Is this the right one here? Not Jimmy from Philly? Yeah, I'll throw the link in there. Yes, that's exactly it, Duck. He's the glue that keeps us together. Yep. Okay, we're subbing. I'll throw the link at Ulick, or out. I won't throw the link at Ulick, but I will throw the link out Ulick. Here you go. Remember your punctuation. Right. Excellent. Good. We'll have somebody new I can throw. I'll look through here and find. See, I have lives and chats. Oh, cool. So maybe, yeah, not pretty regularly then. I'll have to check out some of his stuff. Oh, he just does lives. Excellent. Okay, totally. And I like, he's just keeping the stream clips. Very good. Some scumbag stole my wallet at the recovery house. That sounds interesting. All right, I'll check him out. Okay, we'll bounce out now. Thank you. Much love. We'll see you later at your place, William. Bounce, rock, skate. Roll. Here we go.
This public service announcement is brought to you by Rotten Studios. Remember, no contact is the road to freedom.